I'm still here.
Can you hear me now?
Hello? I can hear you, yeah.
There we go. Finally, we got everything working. I just had to press a couple of other extra buttons. How's it going today?
It's going great. I'm glad to talk to you. Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you so much for taking the time and calling in and sort of putting up with all of this. We call them David errors around here, to be perfectly honest.
I appreciate your interest.
Oh, definitely. It's definitely something I'm quite interested in, and just talking about things that don't seem to be getting talking. So I guess the first thing we need to say is your name, Tom Ackerman. Yep.
Right. Yep.
and you're an artist. And
I'm a painter. Yes, I am. I'm a painter.
And you do this full time. This is your job.
For the last 30 years, yes.
Which is absolutely amazing. Anybody who knows any artist knows that it's a struggle to get to that professional point and to make a living with it. But recently you've been doing something. You did a series of artwork that's been a little bit controversial. So can you talk to me about what it is specifically that you've done?
I think, David, there are probably two components to my personality right now. There's obviously, I'm an anti-nuclear activist, which fundamentally informs all my work I've been doing since this nuclear plant in Japan blew up after the big tsunami, March 11th, 2011. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Oh, definitely. I've been paying attention to sort of what's been going on out there since it happened.
Which is actually what's curious to me about this event. Nuclear plant blows up, has three major full core melt downs, melt throughs, and there's virtually no news coverage about this. If you remember, Chernobyl was a major event, and they've just had to replace the sarcophagus. They're putting a new sarcophagus over it. Mm-hmm. But here's a plant that's totally blown up. Gone. It's in shambles. It's a wood chipper, and there's no coverage on it. And intuitively, I realized that this is the most important event in my lifetime anyway. And like most artists that have any connection to their time, which is something artists are supposed to do, they're supposed to reflect their time. My work is now completely preoccupied with my own feelings about that, how I feel about this event having occurred.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and then that's good. That's what we're supposed to be here for.
I think so. I mean, isn't this what the art of the art reflects the age? I mean, all great art in the past, if you go back to Giotto or Michelangelo, people that reflected their time, Goya, a great I'm a big fan of Francisco Goya, the Spanish artist, mm-hmm. who painted those gruesome paintings, Saturn eating his children, are true inspiration because he didn't care about what people thought. He just made the work.
Yeah, and yeah, there's a whole bunch to talk about with that. But I'm quite curious about what you're doing with this specific event.
Okay, yes, I can talk about that. In terms of my own work, I think what you're kind of leading into is, well, I'm not a scientist or, a brilliant nuclear physicist. I'm an artist. I make paintings, and my paintings have been very, very influenced in the sense that I'm adjusting my work to what is required of me or what I feel is required of me to reflect this. And what's happened is in this series of paintings, which is up at the Fringe Gallery on Hyde Park Road right now, which is, I think, 1742 Hyde Park Road. Mm-hmm. It's a new gallery, and it's only up until it's coming down Thursday. But what I realized is that I have been adjusting my work since 3/11/11 to reflect something that is quite phenomenal and unusual in terms of our time. And my work has never looked this way before. I'm a figurative painter, essentially, but this series of paintings is quite non-objective and abstract. And they're painted on large pieces of paper, which, in essence, paper is, most people that have worked with paper, it's a very fragile surface to work with. So my theory, my idea, my concern is that the Pacific Ocean is being destroyed by all the radionuclides disseminated, admitted, by the way. This is all admitted by TEPCO, the company that runs this nuclear plant, or used to run it, that these radionuclides are being disseminated into the ocean every day. 400 tons of radioactive water is being released into the ocean, besides everything else that the fuel pools that are lost, that have exploded, that are in the environment already. So my concern is that the Pacific is being irrevocably damaged, possibly even destroyed by this event. So my work has to reflect some of that. So interestingly, what I did is I started working on paper, which is very fragile. And paper is, and I'm working with acrylic, and it's a very fluid kind of medium. If you've ever done watercolors, have you ever tried putting watercolors on paper?
I personally haven't. I paint with others. I do a little bit of painting, but not on paper. So,
okay. Well, if people who've experienced just actually making it, it's a very fluid, serendipitous medium, and it kind of paints itself in many ways. Watercolorists will say this, but these aren't watercolors in that sense. What I do is I completely make a piece of paper very wet. So there is a reference here to the fact that I'm working in a fluid medium, which is the Pacific that I'm trying to reflect. I'm trying to create some sort of feeling in this work that has to do with water, has to do with something that is, the Pacific Ocean is a powerful sort of concept, but it's also now quite fragile. And I'm trying to reflect that in the way these paintings look. So they're produced on paper with acrylics in a way that I don't believe anyone is working, technically speaking, in this format or ever really has. There is a painter called Pierre Alashinsky who in the 80s had a major show at the AGO in Toronto, who was working on large format paper, which was similar, but my technique has nothing to do with the way he approached paper. So just from a physical point of view, David, the work is physically what I'm trying to represent. Rather than painting a flower in a vase, I'm literally letting the paper be the subject. It's not like me imposing an idea, an image on it, but a fluidity is emerging out of its own kind of nature. I'm not sure if that makes sense to you. Does it? Does that sort of...
To an extent, I think I need to actually go see the work up close and personal to really...
That would help.
to really get in there. But yeah, I think I have an idea where you're going with it.
Right. Right. Go ahead.
No, I was just, so one of the things you're trying to represent is what's happening to the Pacific Ocean. Yes,
exactly.
And
but in a way,
go ahead.
In a sense that the work almost it's a serendipity. There are chance elements in this, which is what we're facing now. I believe we're in the fight for our lives. I mean, when you look at the overall picture, I need to represent something in these paintings that reflect the monumentality of what we're looking at. Because if I'm right, or people like me are right, we're looking at a body of water being destroyed that supplies us with 50% of the oxygen. Never mind all the plankton, the sea. We're like the last feeders. But when you have large animals like whales and salmon and seals in the ocean, they won't be affected as drastically as, let's say, plankton, which is the basis of our food chain. Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to create, in a sense, the way Goya, when he painted his disasters of war in the after the Peninsula War, during it in Spain, it's that feeling to rattle people's cages into becoming aware of the monumentality emotionally, which is something that art, as far as I'm concerned, whether it's music or dance or opera or visual art, they need to reflect the spirit of the time. What time are we living in? And I've called this the age of fission. We live in the age of fission, as far as I'm concerned. That's my name for it, anyway.
Okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you in that regards when we're talking about the work that you're doing. I had asked you earlier about was there an individual piece or something or that we wanted to talk about, but you said something interesting about the entire overarching. So can you talk about this work? If you have a specific piece that you want people to focus on, or what's the vision for this piece or this?
Well, specifically, yeah, I suppose I could talk. There's the painting that the gallery chose to be on the invite is called Blue Desert. And what I thought, and I think the reason they chose that painting is because it's about 6 foot by 6 foot square, which is relatively large. It's not the largest piece. They go up to about 12 feet by 6 feet in size, which is fairly difficult to work with. But this particular painting was interesting to the gallery, the ladies that run the place, because there seems to be emerging a kind of mask that I had no intention of creating in this painting. And I call it the Blue Desert because it's an orange painting, and it has a kind of Martian landscape feeling, meaning when the water is gone, what do things look like? And out of this painting, what I found very extraordinary is, without my intention, the painting actually looked like there was a mask, almost sort of alien kind of feeling to it, which is maybe a bit of a premonition. So it's not something that I tried to produce necessarily, but it's part of the serendipity of this entire body of work, the elements of chance that are emerging.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And when I tried to, what I found interesting, David, is people looked at these paintings and they thought they were photographs, which I thought was quite curious because the photographic medium is a very high detailed kind of, have a very high detailed look to them, or some people thought they were jet prints of photographs, but they're not. They're acrylic paintings on paper. So,
all right.
Yeah,
I'm definitely quite curious to see, but when we talk about doing an entire series, when we're talking about something as a whole as opposed to individual pieces, what do you hope the viewer will come away with?
Well, I hope they love them and buy a painting.
Fair enough.
I love it when people buy the. I love it when people buy the painting. I mean, go and buy a painting. And my painting, another artist's painting, like you said at the beginning, it's a tough slog to try and make a living on being an artist of any kind. And contrary to popular belief, the idea that everyone is an artist is a bit of is undermining the nature of what it is that artists do. I think it's a very difficult thing to make a living on. But the idea that I'd like people to have, first of all, is to like a work. It's like you look at something, and I don't want people to suffer when they look at my paintings. I want them to be excited. I mean, I'm excited about when I look at even difficult work, like I mentioned Goya with his brutal paintings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get excited. Or there's another painter that you might have heard of, Francis Bacon, who painted these very grotesque images. He did one of Pope Innocent's tent, which is just like him screaming on his chair. I'm not sure if you've seen that Pope picture, but those are very inspirational paintings. And my paintings are a lot more, they're a lot more beautiful. I think people walk away and say they're gorgeous, but what is really interesting, or maybe an anomaly, is that they contain a profound what is that? That kind of like we're in trouble here. We're in danger. Something isn't working. And I think it comes through, even though they're quite beautiful. There is a feeling that I'm trying to convey that something here is wrong. There is something very wrong. And I think it's up to artists to take that step and defend their work, which is what I'm trying to do alongside of making paintings that are quite beautiful that people can enjoy. But I also feel it's important for artists to defend their work. And I've heard you do interviews with people as well, and you challenge people's notions of reality. You know, what kind of situation we're in. I mean, I listened to one, you were interviewing a young lady about the internet and surveillance and all that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see that as being very tied into our, it's kind of like a mandate. Artists need to defend their work, and the way you defend, positions that you have, I think it's very important.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to my stuff, but I definitely agree that, you know, we need to challenge our notions of where we sit within society, of what's being told to us, of what's being never take anything at face value is, I think, my general position on things. And I'm definitely very quite curious to see your work. I've seen the Blue Desert, from the invite. Mm-hmm. But I'm definitely going to go check it out. Unfortunately, I have run out of a little bit of time. So is there anything you want to, I want to give you the opportunity to say one quick thing before we go, if you have something you want to say.
All right. Well, what I want to say, what I'd like to say to people about the world, the way I see it is not what it appears to be. Never trust your immediate responses or senses of what you perceive. I think art is based on something that is hidden necessarily in order for us to come to. We need to work at understanding what it is, the mystery that we're involved in. And the world is not what it appears to be. And all the great art has expressed that eloquently and beautifully. So that's kind of how I see myself and how I see other great art.
Perfect. That's I think that's kind of the best way to leave it off. I really want to thank you, Tom. I'm going to try and put you on hold for a second, and we'll talk a little bit in a second. But I really want to thank you for being on the show. And before we go, I really want to say, go out and check the gallery out. Check it out. See what it's at. It's at the Fringe Gallery, which is 1742 Hyde Park in London, Ontario, and it's showing until October the 12th. I'm now going to attempt to do hold and see this. Here we go. That does that. Cool. We got some more music coming up, and we'll finish off the rest of the top 30. This is Kenneth with Usagi Yojimbo. Here we go.